Hi there. Welcome to Live at Five. Vicki Baird here, intuitive coach, life and business. And I appreciate you stopping by, subscribing, all the ditty, and sending your questions in and giving feedback. Because when I started this, I said, listen, what you see is what you get. I don't believe in fluffing things up. We're going to have a good time and we'll see where these things go and how I can help. This week, we're talking about creating a fulfilling life rather than just a filled life, because it's really easy just to get busy and to be distracted, especially in our technological world. But how we're wired. I mean, humans are are wired that way. We want to blame technology, but look how amazing technology is. It's connecting us. But if you have questions about other stuff, intuitive development, or experiences you've had, or anything like that, feel free to pop in the chat and drop a question in there, because I can't actually tell you how to create your fulfilling life, because we all have unique souls. I mean, your soul came here to experience life in the best way possible for you, to learn what is exciting for you or what lights you up. So I can't tell you what your fulfilling life is. I can certainly help you with some suggestions of how to quiet some of the noise that's out there, telling you what a fulfilling life is. So that's where I'm going to go, because I believe that we all have innately within us some kind of spark that got us here. Our soul said, that sounds like a good idea. I'll go connect up with those people and I will learn this and I will try to navigate that. And then as you come into your human self, it becomes a learning process and it becomes challenging sometimes, because we grow through that challenge. You become more intelligent, more kind, more open. So your individual experiences are going to be what determine a fulfilling life for yourself. What I have found is that, myself included, it is can be really difficult to pause and ask ourselves, what is it that is fulfilling? It's not so hard to do it. It's hard to ask that. It's an easy question, but it is really hard to actually pause everything else and take the time to feel worthy of that time, that introspection and quiet. And I know that we don't spend enough time, most of us, in quiet. My partner and I have very different wiring. Well, that's why it works, right? But he likes to keep going. He likes to keep busy, 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 right up until, 15 minutes before bed. He's doing something. And for the longest time, I felt like I had to join him, not in what he's doing, but just be productive myself. And then I, I finally said to him, listen, this is not me. I am that person for my life and my day to feel integrated, to feel like I've absorbed it and I can assimilate or process. I have to have at least an hour before I go to sleep that isn't filled with all this. It doesn't have TV, it doesn't have phone. It can be reading and stuff, but I need that decompression, because I like to assess. I like to observe. We are all natural observers of our life, and our soul does a really good job of observing what we're doing as a human. And if you learn to connect in with that, you crave the time to get the feedback, to have the conversation. Now, I may not be sitting there in complete contemplative mode. That's what journaling is for in the morning. But I am asking, well, how did today go? Did I like myself today? Do I feel like I contributed? Was I mean to myself? what kind of chatter was going on in there. Because fulfilling life, to me anyway, means that there are gaps and there are times of quiet and there are times of introspection and there's time to daydream and there's time to ask the what ifs, not the what ifs, but the what ifs, what's possible, what could happen. And there's also time to listen to my body. Like, what did I do that day for activity? Did I not do enough for that day for activity? Because whew, my back does not like it if we're not moving for most of the day. So when it comes to creating a fulfilling life, you have to ask yourself those questions, because you may be someone like Mike who just thoroughly enjoys moving about and being busy and doing projects and all of that. Although he has come to my side of, let's just land for a day at the house. You can still be moving around, you can still be doing stuff, but not constantly in the car or out exploring, because to come back to self is is in order to come back to self, in order to meet up with yourself, there has to be some moments of stillness. And that is underappreciated and even not taught, especially if you have like a corporate environment job or if you're in medicine or teaching. Wow, teaching has become just go, go, go. And not allowing for those moments. Or if you have a few kids that you're navigating, running your own business, I would ask you to consider um, whether you had anything in your day that felt fulfilling. Like, did it literally fill you up? So, personal inventory, absolutely right. I mean, like, my essence is important to me. My soul is important to me. I know that you guys think you're here to serve others, but we are actually all here to serve ourselves first, not in an egoic way, but we all know I love the ego. I love that little bugger. But in a way that we can honestly acknowledge to each other, first and foremost to self, but then to each other, what I want in this lifetime matters. What I care about matters. Because when we do that and we each ask, what is a fulfilling life to me? What allows me to feel like I matter, like I'm doing something that literally lights me up? I truly believe that when all of us do that and we're connected to that eternal part of ourselves, our soul part, that there will be less conflict and there will be less keeping up with whatever's going on any of the social platforms. I don't want to call one out, or keeping up with the classmates or the neighbors or anything like that. So as soon as you recognize that, you might love um, having a new craft to learn every other month, because you got to give it a little time. Okay. Let's not just buy out every section, but because then you get into too much stuff in your home. But you may be someone who finds joy, which is what we're really talking about, and that essence of connection in exploring new ways to express yourself creatively. Couldn't find the emphasis there. And I don't think there's enough talk, permission given to ourselves to pursue this. There's a lot of talk about self-care. I am actually not talking about self-care. Self-care is important, but what I'm talking about is knowing oneself so much that you actually don't need moments of self-care, because your life is filled up with respecting and honoring and knowing who you are. So they just kind of weave in there, right? Like, you don't, whenever somebody says, I need to carve out time for self-care, I'm like, wow. What the person who raised 3 kids completely gets that, that the person I am today is like, okay, but if we put that aside for just those moments, I don't know that you're actually practicing self-care. I think you're probably just exhausted and adding one more thing to your list. It feels like the idea of self-care has become one more thing to do. So what I'm suggesting is 5 minutes of checking in, of asking, what went really well today? What went well because I was part of it? What is fun for me? What did I like? What didn't I like? But you start with what I liked, because what you didn't like, too easy to get there, too easy to join the complaint train. And this is basically building self awareness, because a lot of busy work about being busy and having more and more things to do, it just takes you offline of your own line. So I'm going to encourage that for this week, that you spend some time asking yourself if you liked any part of your day. If that seems difficult, and it might be because you're not used to it, um, just ask if you ate something today that you liked. No judgment. I don't care what it was. Pumpkin iced coffee is out. Nespresso. So excited. So that will be on my list tonight of, I'm so grateful that the pumpkin, well, it's hot coffee, but I made it into an iced coffee because it's 90 degrees here today. Um, that's something that will go on my appreciation list and what went well today. You're not going to get such a fat head that it precludes you from being with other people. Our soul, your soul, let me make this more personal to you. Your soul loves you so much, so much. It agreed to do this lifetime with you. And exercises like this, asking about yourself or what do you like, just connects you into that eternal part of you that makes this layover of this lifetime that much more fun. All right. So don't make this hard. Like, if you go about your day, you can do a time study if you'd like. I hear the comment of, I don't have time to do this. I bet you do. So you could do a time assessment. Let's not make it a study. That sounds like way too much work. A time assessment, in that if you find yourself scrolling or running a conversation in your head that happened earlier in the day, let's just take that chunk of time. And instead of doing that other thing, you instill this question of, what do I like in my life? What don't I like in my life? What could change? What would I have to do to have it change? Because we can have awareness, but if you only have awareness and you never take an action, you're going to circle. You're just going to keep in that, kind of like the recycling symbol. You're just going to keep going round and round. So if you're already doing something that's not supporting you, so running over gossip in your head or complaining about something that you have no control over anyway, well, pause it. Don't judge yourself. Don't you do that on my watch. Don't judge yourself. You pause it and you say, oh, that's not serving me. I'm going to go into my assessment of what would serve me, what does feel good to me. Some of you have not been taught that it's okay to take care of you. And I understand that. Former people pleaser, former consider everybody else quite literally on the planet before I do anything for myself. But then I realized that was not loving them. That wasn't honoring the fact that they could maybe hear, I'm not available right now, or I don't want that for dinner. Oh, the dinner conversation, always the dinner conversation. One of the things we instilled in our home as a rule, because it's just the two of us here, you don't count the critters. One of the rules we instituted, if one doesn't like what the other one suggested for dinner, it's a get your own night. And that, I took that right from the very beginning. I used to do that with my kids because I thought, well, it's kind of rude of me to tell them what they want for dinner every night. So we had a couple nights a week where it was get your own, or if somebody had a really good idea and all three of my kids can cook, they would do it. So we've instilled that into our home so that each person feels nourished, and each person feels valid in what their food choices are. And let's just say there's a little deviation in some of the food choices here. So it's good. I'm never going to eat gravy. It's just not happening. And he would swim in it if he could. So, in the process of creating and understanding the difference between, well, I don't want you to create a busier life, but you have to pause and assess if your life is really busy. Now, I will use myself as an example here. My life is actually not that busy when you look at my schedule. I'm fortunate to work with people in which my one-on-ones are a somewhat limited number. So my work week can be flexible at times, and it's not completely filled with busyness, but I can do that. Like, I can get on that whole train of have to do this and make things harder for myself for the act of looking busy, so that then feeds my I was productive, and then therefore I have value. Because most of, at least in the United States, the message is about you have value if you've produced something, or if you worked really hard all day long, or whatever your income is. And I just no longer subscribe to that, because my income doesn't have to be huge for me to have a very fulfilling life. And yet, there can be blocks of time in my own schedule where my head will say, you should have gotten that done. You could have gotten that done. And over the last year, I've been really helping myself by doing this process that I'm now talking about, by assessing, okay, are you just acting in a busyness thing so that at the end of the day you can check a box and say you did all these things, or are you fully present? Because a fulfilling life is one where you're fully present, and you may be fully present in some of the work that you don't necessarily want to do but needs to get done. That feeling of fully presence is you having your soul and your human self integrated. And I am determined to help people do this, because the more that we integrate our soul with our physical selves, like we just kind of mush it all together in there, the less we'll be impressed by the super shiny that promises you'll be happy when, or you will have value because you filled your day so full that you fall into bed at night exhausted. Okay. So, my encouragement to you is to consider that connection with yourself and start tapping in to that voice you have within, because you have a highly developed intuitive sense and intuitive self. They're kind of one and the same. But if there's no pause to listen to that again, you will just get busy. And our brains, like our physical brains, are very happy to get distracted by shiny objects and by the next great thing and the next great promise of the next great thing, right? I'll be happy when, the kids are all great adults and well adapted. Well, great. But what about being happy now so that you can appreciate your life while you're in the process? I'll be happy when I graduate, or I'll be happy when I'm in that relationship. Ooh, that's a big one. Be happy, be connected, be integrated, and feeling fulfilled before you get in a relationship, because then you set the bar. Um, so E-ring 143. I used to have a hustle mentality, but now the freedom of flexibility allows me to add joyful activities. Sometimes that joyful activity is a midday nap. That is something I have never been able to nail. Even if I'm exhausted, I'll lie down. I'm like, I'm so taking a nap. And then I'm like, ping. So I am so glad that there are people out there that do that, because that midday nap is also an integration of what you've done in your day, right? Like in what you did. Because when we sleep, our soul travels and it goes off and does some work too. So you're kind of double dipping there, way to be. And there is a shift that's been happening in our, I think, collective consciousness, although there are always going to be those that think push, 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 just get it done. Your value is still in your paycheck, kind of thing. But has been a shift over the last year, year and a half, of becoming aware that while our soul may be eternal, we're not physically, anyway, in this lifetime. And that the time really does go quickly. And rather than saying life is short, let's say life is wonderful. So I have seen a shift, and I work with a lot of CEOs and business owners, and I have seen a shift in them. And then they're encouraging it in their staff, which I love, um, of, okay, if you get your work done in this amount of time, I don't care. Like, that's fine. We don't have to call it an 80-hour work week. The work needs to be done. It needs to be quality, and there needs to be, progress and all of that, of course. And I know this won't work in retail. I get it. There's always going to be an outlier. There is, to every example that we give. There's going to be an outlier. But the more that you ask yourself, what the heck am I here to learn? And can I have fun doing it? The less you will get in your own intuitive way, but the less stressed you'll be. And then magic really does happen. Doors open, opportunities show up, because the more you are, ironically, the more embodied we are, the more we respect and honor and have fun with the fact that we get to be in a body, the higher you can connect in frequency, and everything's energy. So if you are paying attention to the gossip, to the fear, um, and to the drama of life, you're in low frequency, you're in low vibration. Low vibration, for some people, they may call that a fulfilling life. Like I used to know, I don't any longer. I used to know a lot of people that they weren't happy unless they were talking about somebody else's misery. And I'm like, oof, I do not want to be part of that. If I'm talking about someone, I want to talk about how great they're doing, or how can I help you? So everything's frequency. So if we're talking about having a life that feels fulfilling, number one, you have to do the inventory and have real honest conversations with yourself. But you also have to pay attention to what's going on around you, and where are you putting your energy, and is that serving you, or is it causing extra work, so that arriving or having that fulfilling life is just not showing up. Most of the time, when I'm doing this assessment with someone and I'm asking them, well, what do you like about your life? And they start talking about someone else, I'm like, time out, time out. I didn't ask about their life. I asked about your life. And because it's easy to deflect and to go either blame it on someone else, because there is a certain level of accountability in creating a life that feels fulfilling to you, because once again, you have to get to know you. There may be, doesn't have to be, but it tends to happen often. There may be a period where you feel incredibly alone, isolated, um, freakish, weird, uh, um, the outlier, like someone with no friends. When you start to do these assessments of self, and when you start to ask, um, what is it that I like about my life, or what is it that I don't like about my life? Because you may have to break away from the societal norm. I hate using air quotes, but I'm going to. Um, because the perception of what life should look like. Um, there are benefits to detaching yourself from that. I'm not saying go into complete isolation, but just really start asking yourself, does this matter to me? Does it matter? I am clueless when it comes to whatever series TV is going on, and any of those, housewives of, no freaking clue. And you know what? I love my life. I like who I am. Life can be that, right? Like you can both enjoy it and have a fulfilling life, but you cannot give a hooey about it and have a very fulfilling life too. Um, there can and likely will be moments where you feel like this is forever. I'm going to be alone forever. But that's where a little bit of fortitude needs to happen. And the more clear you get about what you like about life and what interests you, I promise you that that will then bring to you, or you will go meet others that have a similar interest. It could take some time. There's a lot of BS out there about spiritual growth and self development and personal awareness, that it's all this, you just make a decision and then it's so bull pucky. It's not. It's often painful, because some of our greatest growth comes from challenges, and facing those challenges and seeing ourselves on the other side of those challenges and being like, I kind of rocked this. Yeah, it hurt during that, but I rocked it here. Staying in one frequency for your whole life is not serving you. I have often joked that I want to learn as much as I can about myself and about the human process and the soul process in this lifetime, because I want to knock a few of the lifetimes off. I love being human. I love being here. I don't really want to do a couple hundred more. Okay. So if you can be playful around with this, when it comes to these times that are difficult, or you don't know where your pod is or where your people are, um and you have patience with that, and you just keep showing up for yourself, it does like it's overnight, but of course it won't be. Like stuff years, and then people start showing up. You have to do some of the action. You might have to join that book club. You might have to show up to the gym with your knees knocking because you're afraid you can't do it. You may have to um, uh, take a class, or you may decide to volunteer somewhere. Um, when you are shifting your frequency, there has to be like this little period of almost assimilating the energy, because if you think about it, you're shaking off old ways of being and lining up with new ways of being and a new frequency. So it's like an all call has to go out to see, like, where are my peeps? And I think it's important as adults that we admit that this is likely going to happen quite a few times in your lifetime. There are going to be sometime friends, and there are going to be long term friends, and there might be some spaces in between there. And you may find once you give yourself permission to like what you like, be who you are, that the people who show up, you will swear that they've been your friends since kindergarten, or even better because they have nothing to bring up. Because there's a closeness, there's a deep richness that happens there. And this is part of a fulfilling life. I don't subscribe to the idea that you have to have tons of people around you. I don't want to do that. Um, but I do feel like and know to the very essence of me when I'm listening to what I like and I'm speaking of what I like and I know what I like, I don't have to impose that on someone else. But I also know very clearly what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to go to loud concerts. It hurts everything in my energy field. I'm not well, I guess it doesn't matter what I'm not going to do. But sometimes we have to look at what we're not going to do, what we don't like, in order to know what you do like. So I don't believe in a balanced life. I don't think that's possible, as much as I'd love to, because my soul came in to understand what balance is. Yeah. Mhm. Fun. But I've chosen to believe that's the balance between my soul self and my physical self. But as far as our lives, I just don't think that our mobile um, environment and life lends to balance. I think it lends to integration. So there may be times of your life, or what are we calling them now? Seasons. There may be seasons of your life where there's a focus on your intellectual pursuits, where there's a focus on your spiritual pursuits, where there's a focus on your physical, and hopefully you get to blend them all together at some point and integrate. So, my challenge to you this week is, what is fulfilling to you? What feels like it lights you up? I can get very excited about the kitchen being very clean. I'm not looking for great, big, high level, got to accomplish great big things. I don't think starting there serves anyone. So, what could you do today that, whenever you're watching this, even years from now, whenever you're watching this, what could you do today? What did you do today, or what could you do that contributes to you living a fulfilling life for you? Because that then leads to feeling like you've had a successful life. So we're all going to croak. We may as well have fun while we're here. And I am now going to go do 3 challenges I'm doing with my clients, 3 different clients, physically, because that fulfills me. It feels like I'm getting my physical activity in, but I think of them while I'm doing it. And then when I do my inventory later, I feel like I contributed. So to my health, to their health, because they're doing it, because I'm doing it. And we're connected. I do not believe we're all one, but we do contribute to one. So let's love ourselves as much as possible and like ourselves as much as possible and have the most fulfilling lives that work for us individually, and then contribute to the whole. So I will see you next week. Thank you. And send in your questions, or if you have a topic you'd like me just to cover, intuitive development, or part of my process. I don't talk about that much. I'm happy to. It just doesn't occur to me. So if you have questions on that, feel free to leave a message there, or Vicky@VickyBaird.com, or Vicky Baird Coaching on all the platforms. So take care. Nice to see you.